I didn't plan to ruin my quiet life that morning. I didn't wake up thinking I would stand in a federal courtroom and risk my daughter's safety. But when I saw her standing there alone, something inside me broke. And once it broke, I couldn't put it back together. You have to understand something about me. I had been invisible for 15 years. A man with a mop, a blue uniform, a name no one remembered. That Monday morning, I was polishing the marble floor in the federal courthouse in Manhattan when the courtroom doors flew open. Voices, panic, cameras flashing. And there she was, Ariana Lockheart, the billionaire genius everyone either admired or wanted destroyed. Her entire legal team had just walked out, vanished. Minutes before trial, she stood alone at the defense table, shoulders stiff, fingers gripping the wood like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Her mascara had smudged. She looked smaller than she ever had on television. The judge raised his gavel. The prosecutor smirked. The room buzzed like blood in my ears, and I felt it, that old heat in my chest, the one I buried when I quit law, the one I told myself was dangerous. "Miss Lockhart, are you prepared to proceed?" The judge asked. Her voice trembled. "No, Your Honor." That was it. That was the moment. I dropped the mop. The sound echoed. Every head turned. I don't even remember deciding. I just heard myself say it. "I will defend her." Silence swallowed the room. The prosecutor laughed under his breath. The judge stared at me like I'd lost my mind. But Ariana, she turned slowly. Her eyes met mine, red, exhausted, terrified, and still fighting. In that second, I saw something no camera ever caught. Not power, not wealth, just a woman abandoned. And I realized something ugly about myself. I wasn't stepping forward just for her. I was stepping forward because I was tired of being the man who walked away. The judge asked for proof. I handed him my old bar card. Still active, still legal, still me. And when he granted me 72 hours to prepare, the courtroom exploded. Reporters shouting, cameras flashing, but all I could hear was my own heartbeat. Because as Ariana looked at me and whispered, "Why would you do this?" I didn't have an answer. Not yet, but I already knew something worse. The people who buried me 15 years ago were connected to this case. And by stepping forward, I just told them I was back. I should have walked away when she told me to get in the car. That would have been the smart move. Clock out, go home, make dinner for Mia, pretend none of it happened. Instead, I slid into the backseat of her black town car like a man who had already made peace with trouble. For 5 full minutes we didn't speak. Manhattan traffic crawled past us. She stared out the window. I stared at my hands, rough, scarred, not courtroom hands anymore. Finally, she broke the silence. "Why did you do that?" Her voice wasn't angry, it was shaken. I swallowed. "I've been cleaning that courtroom for 3 years. I've watched every hearing." She turned toward me slowly. And I've watched your lawyers lose." Her jaw tightened. They didn't lose. They quit. Same result. That earned me a glare. Good, fire meant she wasn't broken. "Do you even know who I am?" She asked. "Ariana Lockheart, you built quantum energy tech that scares oil companies." Her eyes narrowed. "And you believe I'm innocent?" "I read the files." She blinked. "How?" "I work nights. Judges leave things on desks, and I don't sleep much." That almost made her smile. Almost. When we reached her penthouse overlooking Central Park, I expected arrogance. Instead, I saw chaos. Boxes everywhere. Emails printed. Contracts scattered. She looked at the mess and crossed her arms. "You have 72 hours to find what 6 elite attorneys couldn't." There it was. Doubt. Not in herself. In me. I rolled up my sleeves anyway. We worked in silence for hours. Then I noticed something. An email thread with her former assistant. The tone changed halfway through the year. Warm became cold. Supportive became distant. Then silence. I leaned back. "Who's Julia Marsh?" Ariana stiffened. "My assistant. She left last year." "Left," I repeated. Something about it felt wrong. Around midnight, I looked up and caught her watching me. Not as a billionaire. Not as a client. Just watching. Curious. "Why are you really doing this?" She asked softly. I didn't answer right away, because the truth was uncomfortable. "I'm tired of running," I finally said. Her eyes softened. Just a little. And for the first time, the tension in the room shifted. Not fear. Not suspicion. Something warmer. But then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I opened the message. A photo of my daughter walking into school. And beneath it, "If you continue, she won't have a father." The warmth disappeared instantly, and Ariana saw my face change. "What is it?" I turned the screen toward her. She went pale. "You need to walk away," she whispered. I locked my phone. "No." And this time, I meant it. I didn't tell Mia that night. "How do you look at your 13-year-old? daughter and explain that powerful. Men just threatened her life. You don't. You lie. You smile. You ask about homework. But inside I was unraveling. I barely slept. I kept replaying the photo in my head, the angle, the distance. Someone had been close, watching her. By morning I had arranged for extra security at her school. I asked Mrs. Chen to keep her after class. I hated how afraid I felt. Hated it. But at 8:30 a.m., I stood outside the courthouse beside Ariana, wearing the only suit I owned. Too tight in the shoulders. 15 years old. She glanced at me. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Her eyes searched mine like she was trying to measure something deeper than confidence. Then we walked inside together. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, cameras, spectators. Marcus Holt stood polished and calm like none of this rattled him. He called his first witness, an expert, Dr. Raymond Bryce. Gray suit, calm voice, arrogant certainty. He testified that Ariana's technology was stolen, that it matched Nexus research almost identically. The jury murmured. I felt Ariana tense beside me. Her hand brushed mine under the table. Not intentional, just reflex. But she didn't pull away right away, and neither did I. Then it was my turn. I stood slowly. My heart pounded so hard I thought everyone could hear it. 15 years. That's how long it had been since I cross-examined someone. I walked toward Bryce. Dr. Bryce, how many peer-reviewed papers have you published on quantum physics? He blinked. I'm an electrical engineer. So none. His confidence flickered. I pressed. You could feel the shift in the room. The jury leaning forward. Holt stiffening. Bryce sweating. Then I dropped the bomb. Isn't it true you were paid? $300,000 by a shell company tied to Nexus? Silence. Thick. Electric. The judge leaned forward. Bryce's face went red, and in that moment something inside me came back. The rhythm. The clarity. The man I used to be. When I returned to my seat, Ariana leaned toward me. That was incredible, she whispered. Her voice was different now. Not desperate, not scared, something closer to admiration. I didn't look at her, because if I did, I might have felt it too. And I couldn't afford distractions. Not when I knew the people behind this case weren't finished. Not when I could still feel someone watching. And during lunch recess as we stepped outside, a man in a dark suit blocked our path. I'm Leonard Price, he said calmly. And I think you should reconsider your involvement. He smiled, but his eyes were empty. And then he mentioned my daughter, by name. When he said her name, my heart stopped. Not Mia. Her full name, the one barely anyone uses. That wasn't a coincidence. That was surveillance. Leonard Price stood too close, calm, polite, dangerous. You're a talented man, Mr. Warren, he said softly. It would be tragic if your little girl had to grow up without you. Ariana stepped forward before I could react. Is that a threat? He smiled again. It's advice. I grabbed his wrist. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to feel something human in him. There wasn't. Stay away from my daughter, I said quietly. His voice dropped lower. Then stay away from this case. He walked off like we were discussing weather. Ariana's hand slid into mine without thinking. I felt it. Warm, firm, steady. She didn't realize she was holding on, and I didn't tell her. We need police protection, she said. They won't touch him. Not without proof. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. You're scared. Yes. The word surprised both of us. Her expression softened. So am I. That honesty did something unexpected. It made the fear less lonely. That night I returned to my apartment. The door was slightly open. My stomach dropped. Inside, everything was destroyed. Couch slashed. Cabinets torn open. Mia's school photos gone. Gone. Not stolen for value. Taken for message. I sank to my knees. And for a second, I almost broke. Then my phone rang. Mrs. Chen. Mia is safe, she said gently. I closed my eyes. Thank God. After the police left, uninterested and dismissive, I called Ariana. We can't stay home. Come here, she said immediately. No hesitation. Her penthouse was secure. Cameras, guards, reinforced doors. But when she opened the door for me that night, she didn't look like a billionaire. She looked worried. For me, you shouldn't have to deal with this, she whispered. I chose this. We worked at the long dining table until midnight. But the silence between us was different now. Heavier, more intimate. Around 1 a.m., she set a glass of water in front of me. Our fingers brushed. This time she didn't pull away. Why did you really quit law? She asked quietly. I stared at the glass. Because if I told her, I'd have to reopen something I buried. But something in her eyes told me she wasn't asking out of curiosity. She was asking because she wanted to understand me. So I told her about the journalist. About the trial. About the witnesses disappearing. About my wife dying in a hit and run that was never solved. Her face changed. You think they killed her? I know they did. And you walked away. I had a daughter. And now, her voice softened. Now you're risking her anyway. That hit harder than anything Leonard said. She leaned closer. You didn't step into that courtroom for me. I looked up slowly. You did it because you're tired of being the man who ran. The worst part, she was right. And before I could respond, glass exploded behind us. The glass didn't just shatter. It screamed. Ariana gasped as shards rained across the marble floor. 3 men in black tactical gear stormed through the broken window. Guns raised. Professional. Precise. One of them aimed straight at her. Time slowed. You know that feeling? When your body moves before your mind does? I stepped in front of her. Instinct. Not heroics, just instinct. Where's the phone? The man barked. What phone? I shot back. He cocked the gun slightly. The one Julia gave you. Julia, Ariana's former assistant. The name hit us both at the same time. Ariana's fingers gripped my sleeve. It's in the safe, she whispered. No, I breathed. But she moved anyway. Calm, controlled, terrified. She removed a painting from the wall and opened a hidden safe. Pulled out a small burner phone. Held it up. Here. The man stepped forward. But before he reached it, sirens. Loud, close. The men cursed. One fired a warning shot into the ceiling. Then they ran. Just like that. Chaos in, chaos out. Ariana stood frozen, still holding the phone. Her hands were shaking now. I took it gently from her. You okay? I asked. She nodded, but her eyes were glossy. Not from fear, from anger. After the police left, again too late, we sat on the couch in silence, our shoulders almost touching, neither of us pulling away. We end this tomorrow, she whispered. Yes, but I didn't believe it would be that simple. At 2 a.m. the doorbell rang. We both froze. I checked the camera. Julia! Bruised, bleeding, crying. I opened the door. She collapsed inside. They tried to kill me, she sobbed. I recorded everything. Corbin, Price, all of it. She handed me another phone. My pulse quickened as I scrolled. Payments. Threats. Plans to frame Ariana. Plans to sabotage her lawyers. It was enough to bury Nexus forever. This changes everything, I whispered. Ariana looked at me. Hope flickered for the first time. Then, a gunshot, Julia screamed. The window exploded again. Men rushed in, this time shooting. I grabbed Julia and dragged her toward the hallway, Ariana right behind us. We reached the panic room and slammed the steel door shut. Locked it. Julia was bleeding badly. I pressed my hand against her shoulder wound. Stay with me. Outside, drilling. Meal against steel. They were trying to break in. Ariana backed against the wall. They'll blow the door. I opened Julia's phone. Started uploading everything. Every file. Every recording. To the cloud. To the FBI. To the press. The drilling stopped. Then a voice. 30 seconds. A beeping started. A timer. Ariana grabbed my hand. Not polite. Not careful. Desperate. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? For pulling you into this. I squeezed her hand. You didn't. 20 seconds. 15. I thought about Mia. About failing her. Again. 10 seconds. 5. Then, helicopter blades. Shouting. Gunfire. The beeping stopped. Silence. And then a voice through the door. Mr. Warren, FBI, you're safe. But as I looked at Ariana still gripping my hand, I realized something had changed. And it wasn't just the case. When I opened the panic room door, I expected relief. Instead, I felt exposed, like stepping back into a world that had almost ended. FBI agents flooded the penthouse. Tactical gear, controlled chaos. And then I saw her, Agent Sarah Tran, older now, steel in her eyes. Elliot, she said, almost disbelieving. You always did know how to find trouble. I managed a weak smile. It keeps finding me. Behind us, medics lifted Julia onto a stretcher. Ariana didn't look away from the blood on the marble floor. I noticed her hands, still shaking. Without thinking, I stepped closer. Not touching, just close enough that she could feel I was there. She exhaled slowly. That small shift, it felt intimate, not dramatic, just real. At the safe house in Brooklyn, statements lasted for hours. Sarah confirmed what we already suspected. Corbin arrested. Price in custody. Warrants issued. It's enough to dismantle Nexus, she said. Ariana didn't celebrate. She just stared at the table. After everything, victory felt heavy. Later that night, in separate rooms down the narrow hallway, neither of us slept. I found her in the kitchen at 2 a.m., barefoot, no makeup, hair loose. She looked younger like that. Smaller. Can't sleep? She asked softly. No. She poured 2 cups of tea. Our fingers brushed again. This time neither of us moved away. I thought we were going to die, she whispered. So did I. Silence. Thick. Then she looked up at me. If that door had blown... Her voice cracked. I stepped closer before I could stop myself. You didn't panic, I said. You were strong. She shook her head. I was terrified. Strength isn't the absence of fear. Her eyes held mine, and for a second everything else faded. Not the case, not the danger, just her, standing there, looking at me like I was something solid in a collapsing world. My chest tightened, because I hadn't let anyone look at me like that in 15 years. I'm glad it was you in that courtroom, she said quietly. That did it. That small confession. It felt warmer than it should have. Dangerous in a different way. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A message from Mia. Dad, are you coming home tomorrow? Reality snapped back. Ariana saw my face change. Your daughter? Yes. You should go to her. I will. She hesitated. Elliot, when this is over. What happens? There it was. The uncertainty. Not about the case. About us. I didn't have an answer, because I didn't know if this connection was built from survival or something deeper. I don't know, I admitted. And for the first time since we met, neither of us looked away. Going home should have felt safe. It didn't. When I picked Mia up from Mrs. Chen's apartment, she ran into my arms like she used to when she was 5. Dad, are you in trouble? She asked against my chest. Not anymore, I lied softly. But as I held her, I realized something. I had stepped into danger without asking her if she was ready for it. That guilt sat heavy. That night, after she went to bed, I sat alone on the couch staring at my phone. There was a message from Ariana. Are you okay? Simple, but it did something to me. No one had checked on me like that in years. I'm fine, I typed back. 3 dots appeared instantly. I miss having you here. I stared at that message longer than I should have. Miss, that word carried weight. Dangerous weight. I didn't answer right away, because I wasn't sure what I was feeling. Attachment built in chaos can feel like love. But sometimes it's just trauma clinging to trauma. I couldn't let myself confuse the two. The trial against Corbin began 2 weeks later. The charges against Ariana were officially dismissed. She was cleared, publicly vindicated. The media called her unstoppable. But I saw something else when we met outside the courthouse that morning. Exhaustion, relief, and something softer when she looked at me. You didn't have to come, she said. Yes, I did. She smiled. Not the CEO smile, not the press smile, a real one. Inside the courtroom, I testified for 2 days. About the emails, the threats, the break-in, the panic room. Every time I glanced toward Ariana, she was watching me. Not as a client, as a woman who trusted me. That trust scared me more than Leonard Price ever did. After court one evening, we walked out together. No cameras, no reporters, just the quiet hum of Manhattan at dusk. You're different now, she said suddenly. Different how? You stand taller. I laughed softly. I'm still the same janitor. No, she said gently. You're not. The way she said it, it felt like she was seeing something in me I'd forgotten existed. We stopped at the corner, traffic lights blinking red. For a second, it felt like we were the only 2 people in the city. I don't want this to just be about the case, she admitted. My chest tightened. Ariana. I know, she said quickly. You have a daughter, a life. And this is complicated. Complicated. That was an understatement. But when her hand brushed mine again, this time not accidental, I didn't pull away, and that scared me, because for the first time since Claire died, I wanted to feel something again, and I didn't know if I was ready for that. I should have stepped back when her fingers laced with mine. That would have been the responsible thing. Instead, I held on, not tight, just enough to say I felt it too. The city moved around us, cars, people, noise, but in that small space between our hands, everything felt quiet. Ariana, I started. I know, she whispered. It's messy. Messy wasn't the word. I was a single dad from Queens who still smelled faintly like courthouse cleaner. She was a billionaire who could shift global markets with one announcement. This didn't make sense, and maybe that's why it felt honest. I don't want to be your hero, I said carefully. Her eyebrows softened. Good, I don't want to be rescued. That made me smile. There it was again, that spark. Not fireworks, not fantasy, just 2 people who had survived something brutal together. A bond forged under gunfire and court transcripts. But bonds built in crisis can burn out fast. I had seen it before. In soldiers, in victims. Intensity isn't always love. I have to protect my daughter first, I said quietly. Her hand squeezed mine. I would never ask you not to. The sincerity in her voice disarmed me. She wasn't trying to pull me away from my world. She was trying to understand it. That mattered. A week later, she came to my apartment for dinner. Nothing fancy. Spaghetti, garlic bread, store-bought salad. Mia answered the door, and I held my breath, because this was the real test. Not courtrooms, not gunmen, my daughter. Ariana crouched slightly to meet Mia's eye level. Hi, I've heard you're the smartest person in your house. Mia narrowed her eyes. Dad says that? Ariana smiled. He brags about you constantly. Mia looked at me suspiciously, then back at Ariana. You're not what I expected. Oh? Ariana laughed softly. What did you expect? Snobby. Ariana pretended to gasp. I left my tiara in the car. Mia burst out laughing, and just like that, the tension cracked. During dinner, I watched them talk. Really talk. About science. About school. About energy technology and math competitions. Ariana wasn't performing. She was present. And when Mia excused herself to do homework, Ariana turned to me. You did good, she said softly. With what? With her. That compliment hit deeper than any courtroom victory. But then her expression shifted. Uncertainty. I don't want to complicate your life, she admitted. You already did, I said. Her face fell slightly. I stepped closer, but not in a bad way. Silence. Warm. Fragile. And then she asked the question I'd been avoiding. Are we building something real, or just holding on to survival? I didn't answer right away, because I wasn't sure yet, and that scared me more than anything Nexus ever did. When she asked that question, I felt exposed. Not attacked, not pressured, just seen. Are we building something real, or just holding on to survival? I looked toward Mia's closed bedroom door, then back at Ariana. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't want to be your rebound from trauma, she whispered. And I don't want you to be mine. Her voice wasn't dramatic. It was careful. That carefulness meant more than passion ever could. I stepped closer. You're not a rebound. Then what am I? There it was. The vulnerability. Not billionaire Ariana. Just a woman asking where she stood. I exhaled slowly. You're someone who walked into the worst week of my life. And didn't run. Her eyes softened. You didn't run either. Silence settled between us. Not uncomfortable, just heavy with truth. For 15 years, I continued, I shut down parts of myself. After Claire died, I convinced myself love was a liability. And now? She asked. Now I'm realizing that shutting down didn't protect me. It just kept me lonely. Her breath caught slightly. That tiny sound did more to me than gunfire ever did. She stepped forward, close enough that I could see the faint scar near her collarbone. Close enough that I could feel her warmth. But you're scared, she said softly. Yes. Of losing me? I shook my head. Of losing you. And my daughter. That was the truth. Not fear of scandal. Not fear of wealth difference. Fear of attachment. Fear of building something that could be ripped away. Ariana reached up slowly. Rested her hand against my chest. Right over my heartbeat. I don't want to replace your past, she said. And I don't want to rush your future. Her voice dropped. I just want a chance to be part of it. That wasn't pressure. That was permission. My hand moved to her waist. Gentle. Testing. She didn't step back. For a moment, the world narrowed to breath and distance. I leaned in slightly. She didn't move. But just before our lips met, Mia's bedroom door opened. Dad? We both froze. Ariana stepped back instantly, reality rushing in. Mia stood there watching us, not shocked, just observing. I forgot to tell you, she said casually. I got first place in math regionals. I blinked. What? She shrugged. Yeah. Ariana smiled warmly. That's incredible. Mia studied us carefully. Then she said something that stopped my heart. So, is she staying? And suddenly the answer to Ariana's question wasn't just mine to give. When Mia asked that question, my heart did something strange. It didn't race. It didn't panic. It settled. Ariana looked at me first. Not at Mia. At me, like she wasn't going to answer unless I did. That mattered. I don't know, I said carefully. What do you think? Mia crossed her arms. 13 going on 30. I think, she said slowly, that you haven't smiled like this in a long time. That hit harder than any cross-examination ever had. I glanced at Ariana. She wasn't trying to charm Mia. She wasn't trying to win her over. She just stood there, waiting, vulnerable. That's when I realized something. This wasn't survival attachment. It wasn't adrenaline bonding. It wasn't two broken people clinging to each other. It was choice. Slow, careful, real. I said finally looking at Mia, that she's not going anywhere. If you're okay with that. Mia studied Ariana for a long second. You like science? She asked her. I love science, Ariana replied. You okay with messy kitchens and loud debates about math? Ariana smiled softly. I grew up with 3 brothers. I can handle chaos. Mia nodded once. Okay then. And just like that, something fragile locked into place. Later that night, after Mia went back to her room, Ariana stood near the window. You didn't have to say that, she whispered. Yes, I did. She turned toward me. You're sure? No, I admitted. That made her laugh quietly. I've spent most of my life calculating risk, I continued. Predicting outcomes, avoiding exposure, and loving you might be the only decision I've made without a safety net. Her breath caught. You're loving me? There it was. The cliff edge. I stepped closer. I think I started the moment you stood alone in that courtroom, and still refused to look defeated. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. She just reached for me. This time when I kissed her, it wasn't rushed. It wasn't desperate. It was steady, like something finally allowed to exist, and for the first time in 15 years. I didn't feel like a man who ran. I felt like a man who stayed. But love doesn't end with a kiss. It begins with a promise. And as I held her there, I knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, I wasn't walking away again.